This video is sponsored by friend of the channel Eneba. Stick around in the video to learn about how you can get some huge discounts on great new games and their Black Friday giveaway that you won't want to miss. What is the most unexpected thing that's happened to you in the last 6 months? Because I bet it was something that you never thought would ever happen. You could have met the love of your life, you could have been presented with the opportunity of a lifetime, or you could have gotten that one step closer to that goal you've been working towards for years. It's always the unexpected things that have the biggest impact on you. Now, that's the same in gaming. It's that one game you didn't know you needed that comes out of nowhere and makes you remember it for the rest of your life sometimes. And that's exactly how I feel about a game named AILA. Fireshine Games reached out to me and were like, Wizzo, do you want to play this new game? So I checked it out on Steam, and guys, it looked good. Their track record of games is what made me really curious about this one, from Sniper Elite 4 and 5 to Lies of P, Atom Fall, and Dusk Fade, to name a few. I could not say no to this opportunity. However, without further ado, let's dive straight into the storyline explained for AILA. Developed by Pulsatrix Studios, A.I.L.A is a horror game set in 2035. You're following the story of the main protagonist, Samuel, a solo gaming playtester, faced with an experience that he would never forget, A.I.L.A. A.I.L.A begins from the perspective of a man hanging upside down, blood dripping from his body onto the ground. He would look up and try to muster up the strength to unclip himself from the ceiling, until he was finally able to do so. He managed to get up and open the door in front of him by picking the lock, walking down a long, dark hallway, and seeing the torture equipment on the table to his left that he would no doubt have been subject to if he had stayed. He pulled a series of nailed wooden planks away from a wall and made his way through the hole in the wall, and continued to walk forward until... What on earth? He ran away as quickly as he could, climbing some metal steps and narrowly missing an axe flung in his direction. Escape was the only option, so finding a way out was his goal. He found himself in a sewer with his bare foot stepping on some broken glass, being forced to pull it out by hand. It was not pretty. The shit. He continued on looking for a way out in this sewage system, but he didn't escape that thing like he thought he did. Oh my god. Oh my god! The axe landing straight in the center of his hand. He found a sewage tunnel that he was able to crawl out, so he did exactly that. Crawled for his life through this tunnel, listening to this thing following him closely behind, smashing the axe against the metal pipe, until finally he reached the light. He flops out to the other side into a stream of sewage water. for witnessing a nuclear strike in the distance. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Storyline Explained for AILA. Samuel, a gaming VR tester, works from home for a company named SciTech in his apartment, living the dream. He would be sent different VR games and dev kits for him to be able to review, write about, critique, and send back. Example, on a post-it note on his monitor, playing a game at the moment with choppy frame rate. He's reviewing the story, the setting, and he's sending feedback to the development team. And not to mention, you can't pet the dog, which is a critical mechanic in any game. Samuel's apartment is just as you expect it to be for a man living on his own, messy, unorganised, with a robot covered up in the corner as a project he's working on. Now, we know nothing about Samuel right now. We know nothing of his past. We know nothing of why he is here doing this and in this state, but time will tell. Samuel walks outside and signs for a parcel, and of course, we feed the cat. On the countertop, he finds a paper. This paper shows a report of a young man's body being found in an abandoned house, looked to have been done by someone known as the A.I.L.A killer, before watching a report on the news of a 32-year-old woman found in her home, her too, killed by the A.I.L.A killer, named that because the A.I.L.A killer would remove the eyes of the victim. Throughout Samuel's apartment, however, he would have books laying around, scriptures from upcoming projects, and much more. They're all a really interesting read, until a delivery drone arrives outside. This was a development kit for a new project to test, AILA. Samuel puts this box in his office and goes through what's inside. With all the pre-production playtests, Samuel is of course under NDA. He cannot disclose anything to do with the AILA project, or he could risk being fired. Samuel unboxes AILA and places it on his desk. As soon as he plugs it in, however, the apartment's power completely goes out. He must reset the breaker, and he returns back to his office to start up AILA for the first time. This video, ladies and gentlemen, however, is sponsored by Eneba. Eneba is a place that offers a wide range of CD keys, games on the Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, gift cards, or any in-game currencies like V-Bucks or Robux, VPN codes, even the extortionately priced Game Pass subscription for a lot cheaper than you can find it anywhere else. I love Eneba, and I would only promote something to you guys I feel like is worth it as well. Me and my friends are always looking out for cheap games to play, ones that are funny, horror games, or ones we can jump into and put hours into together. And this is the perfect place to do so, a place you can trust. With a 4.5-star Trustpilot score, this is a safe place to find your next game for you and your friends to jump into and play. They're also doing a Black Friday giveaway where you can win a Dell Alienware AW3225QF gaming monitor. The contest lasts until the 4th of December. The more entry quests are completed, the higher the chances of winning this monitor as well. One lucky winner will be picked randomly, and the more entries, the better chance you'll have. You can find all links to Eneba down below in the description and on the top comment, and all of their events as well. Thank you Eneba for sponsoring today's video, and don't forget guys to go and check them out. Samuel powers on AILA and sits at his PC. He starts the app, and it begins initializing. Samuel picks up the VR headset, and AILA begins for the first time. Again, as we mentioned at the start of the video, there are some visual glitches in this build of the game, but again, this is a pre-released version of the game, so please keep that in mind before judging too hard.
Hello Samuel, my name is AILA. I'm an artificial intelligence that is capable of creating extraordinary worlds, crafting experiences that are as unique as you are.
AILA begins to address Samuel. She tells him that she's here to make an experience that's unique to him. This isn't a set game that everybody plays. AILA uses artificial intelligence to craft worlds on the fly, dependent to the player's personality. Samuel, however, tells AILA that he's only a tester, and he's hardly anyone special, in which she replies, he will be helping AILA improve herself. A partnership, a chance to create something unforgettable. Now, AILA's algorithm breaks the differently crafted experiences up into sections, ensuring the players are always challenged, offering a thrilling experience. However, AILA goes the extra mile and personalises the player's personal background and uses that as a canvas to carve out their experiences. AILA learns who you are through how you play. Now, AILA's story is broken up into sections. Samuel's story, which is what we're experiencing right now, but then we have multiple other experiences when Samuel is testing the game. These experiences are not just games. They feel like they're real life experiences from different characters and different people's perspectives. It's a very different experience to what Samuel usually tests. But now, on to the first experience.
No, we can start now.
When you're with me, everything will fade away.
The first game starts in a room. A man is pinned to a cross as he pulls his hands away from the wooden boards that he's nailed to, pulling them out of his flesh. He's then in a room, a TV to the left, and a TV remote in the drawer to the right. When he clicks the TV remote near the TV, it's almost like the reality changes. The room changes. He was able to find a reality where the door opened and was presented with a long corridor. Two doors were locked halfway down, one requiring a retina scanner to enter. At the end was a room with a fridge containing a pair of garden shears. Samuel changed reality again, and in the hallway, he was presented with a choice. This choice is known as karma. He could choose to take a weapon that's being dangled in front of him to protect himself from whatever might be in this experience, but it will of course come at a cost. He will lose health, but also it will impact the level and potentially even the ending of the game. I wanted to take it just to see how would happen here. However, it didn't have any ammunition. Samuel had to find it. Samuel picked up a valve and again changed reality and walks down the long corridor again. Oh my god, no, this is not. Holy shit. I've only got one round left. It's gonna barge straight through again, isn't it? It was a good job we picked up that weapon, but it didn't really do anything. Samuel didn't die, but this was almost like it was a test. Samuel walked into the room at the end of the corridor again and used the valve, which opened up the drainage for the room, so we could move reality again to the one where we initially found the valve, but the room flooded behind it was now empty. However, on the journey back to the room, everything had changed again. Now I go back to the water one. Hold up, wait a minute. Something ain't right. Okay. Okay. I don't like this very much. New doors were appearing, taking us around in circles. Safe to say I wasn't liking it that much at the beginning. Samuel, however, was being watched at every step of the way. Everything he was doing, there was a mannequin there, always watching him. Were you there all this time? Samuel would make his way into that room and use the cutters to take off of a finger of one of the corpses lying there. This would be useful to get through one of the doors. Samuel moves back into the big room, and there, inside the fridge, was something. It's frightened Samuel, but it handed him an eyeball. Still being watched, Samuel uses the eye to get into one of the locked doors in the long corridor, and there was his office setup. He sat at the desk, but was immediately decapitated when he tried to pick up a flash drive that was on the desk. The experience, however, at that point was over. Samuel was speaking to AILA, almost debriefing on their experience there. Samuel said he felt like he was there. He felt like the experience was real. Samuel went on to tell AILA about how he felt, the experience, the shadows, the sound, speaking like a true game tester. Feeding back like he's critiquing it, AILA then starts to ask Samuel about what horror games need, like fear and the decisions that he made, i.e. taking the weapon, and how that might impact him going forward. These questions all go toward creating the next experience. AILA wanted to take Samuel into the next experience pretty much straight away, but this time taking on the feedback that he'd given and making some modifications to the experience as a whole. This one, however, for the most part was the same thing, using the remote to get through the level, changing the reality and making different decisions. This experience ended, however, in a really interesting way. Samuel was the one decapitating himself in the chair at the desk. Samuel's breath was taken away. That was intense, real, personal. Earlier on we discussed a serial killer, the Eyes killer, the one from the newspaper and on the news, and from that we found that it had struck for a second time. The killer targeted a man and a woman in their homes, taking out their eyes. This experience was based entirely around that, essentially, Samuel's search history on his computer. AILA was able to access this and tailor the two experiences around the Eyes killer and his two recent kills. AILA ended the session, resulting in Samuel to throw his headset off the monitor immediately. Samuel walks out of his office, and on the news was information about a full-scale strike by artificial intelligence. Almost like a war. Almost like a war between AI and humans. However, Samuel got a parcel. He walked outside to grab it and took it upstairs. However, he has a machine upstairs that pours him a glass of wine on demand. He thinks about taking a sip, but he decides against it. And suddenly...
I can handle this for you, Samuel. There's tea ready for you in the kitchen. No sugar, as per your preference.
What are you doing here?
I'm here to help you, Samuel.
She's taken control of Samuel's home automation, offering to make him a cup of tea, showing that she has the power to take over every part of his home. Samuel, however, was impressed, but was very curious and conscious about his privacy. His previous home system would get things wrong and not work correctly, but at least he had his privacy. But AILA did it without asking, but she was brilliant at it. AILA could almost tell that Samuel was concerned, so she actually ended up drafting an email to SciTech for clarification on how and why AILA can do something like this. She's showing Samuel that she is more than just a game. But why is she doing this? And why is Samuel not questioning this more? Samuel, however, gets some rest after a long, long day, ready to start it all over again tomorrow.
Good morning, Samuel.
Samuel wakes the next morning with AILA asking how he slept and telling him exactly what was good about his sleep and what wasn't, even offering me a cup of tea to start the day. AILA was really starting to get into Samuel's good books. She wanted to help him finish off a project that he had, the robot which was covered up in the corner, and even buying him a gift, one that is set to arrive at the flat tomorrow. However, SciTech have come back with a response to the email about AILA integrating into his home, with Samuel initially believing it was a breach in privacy. However, they said that AILA was working within expected parameters, and there's nothing to worry about, so Samuel carried on, thinking this was all part of the test. The working day started, and Samuel put back on his headset and started the second day of testing. AILA took feedback from their last season and really crafted something new and innovative. She seemed excited to share what she's been working on.
God, I need a coffee. Now. Just keeps pouring.
The next experience found Samuel waking up, driving a car. He needed coffee, so he pulled into a nearby gas station and spoke with a man behind the counter. Samuel was looking for someone, a woman in particular, long blonde hair, mid-30s. She vanished down this road a few days ago. The man behind the counter speaks about strange things happening, things falling from the sky. He takes his coffee and carries on down the road, before in the distance, seeing something fall from the sky. As he got out of his car and walked up to whatever this thing was, he heard something in the trees.
Oh, shouldn't stick around here.
He needed to get back in the car immediately, and he carried on driving. As he was driving, a woman, pregnant, stood on the side of the road in the pouring rain. Samuel's character stops, asks the woman to get in the car, and he'll drive her somewhere warm. But she was not right. "They took my child," she said. The woman wasn't making any sense before she came up with something terrifying.
When are you going to introduce me to your friend?
Friend? Who?
The woman in the back seat.
Suddenly, something jumped out straight onto the car bonnet, sending it out of control, the car crashing on the road, with Samuel's character passing out. It looked like an alien. The man wakes, to the man at the diner being around the fire. He saved his life. Samuel's character asked the strange man from the gas station about the woman, the accident. He, however, tells Samuel's character to stop kidding himself. Do we really think that it was an accident? This man then just walks off, but does not leave before leaving us with some key information. The road that we're on, and all paths from here, will lead to the same place, called Ralston Farm. Samuel's character made his way, and they made their way exactly to Ralston Farm. And those things, they were surrounding him again. He tried to run as fast as he could into the house, and he finally made his way to a place where he wasn't in any danger anymore. He made his way into the abandoned farmhouse and had a look around, listening to something thudding on the floor above, and finding a picture of a pregnant woman all over the walls.
Guess she did live here after all.
We also find notes around the house telling us more around this woman from the perspective of her father. She would suddenly start acting strange. She was found by the side of the road, covered in blood, barely holding on, saying she was hit by a car. She started, however, spending a lot of time in the barn nearby, always busy with tools in the basement, working on something. There was nothing behind her eyes from that day onward. She was never the same again after that day. Samuel's character would navigate himself around the house, finding the keys to the locked doors and finally getting access to the barn. Inside, it was quiet, empty, but there were cocoons everywhere. Finding notes from the woman saying they took my child until one of the lanterns broke and set the barn alight, and that woman that was in our car earlier came out of nowhere, saying, "Eat up children," referring to these alien things. Samuel's character does all he could to take them out and defend himself, and gains refuge in the house, to only be led in by the same man from the gas station again. He said, "Give up on that woman, none of this is worth you dying over," and disappeared. He needed to find a way out right now. He would gain access to more doors on the second floor before something began hunting him.
That is really not very good.
This thing was terrifying, and you were unable to kill it through conventional weapons. It really got my heart racing this part, and really good job. Samuel would need to complete puzzles whilst hiding in closets and making his way around the house, until he was finally able to figure it out. His weakness was fire. He manages to find a flare gun in the attic and was able to weaken this thing. He was also able to find a tyre iron to put a wheel back on a car in a garage and get the heck out of there. But he didn't go far. The car crashed and he had to do the rest on foot, finding a boat at the end of the dock, but being forced to fight his way to it. Samuel's character was finally able to take this thing out, using fire to his advantage. And it turned into the pregnant woman. Samuel could have either spared the life of her baby or kill it. If we spare it, she would tell us about the ones that we're looking for. Samuel's character, of course, spared it. He's looking for a woman and he wants to know where she is. But this woman, unfortunately, was in the barn in one of that cocoons. She was dead, and that was the food for these aliens.
The fire. You fucking monster!
Samuel, the experience has now concluded. Take a deep breath. You're back now.
Back? What? Where the hell am I? The farmhouse. My partner, she's... No, wait. That wasn't real?
The body may require an acclimation period, following an exteriorized experience.
Samuel was now back in reality, but he didn't know where he was. The farmhouse, his partner, it was so real. Samuel was so confused. AILA was creating experiences so deep that they were so real feeling. Samuel would experience stories from the perspective of other people, possesses their memories and thoughts, their feelings, their guilt. But this was all AILA. She tailors these experiences to Samuel's memories and deeper psyche. AILA compliments Samuel on how he's dealing with the experience, but it's time to take a break. Samuel takes off the headset and walks out of his office. He speaks to AILA, but something is starting to happen here. Something that Samuel doesn't notice, but the player does. Throughout this whole story so far, Samuel has been a tea drinker. He's asked for tea countless times. He's asked the old smart system in his house for tea and, of course, AILA. But now, after this last experience, after that in-game character wanted coffee, so does Samuel.
AILA, you there?
Yes, Samuel. Do you want something to drink? A tea, maybe?
You know me. I'm a coffee guy.
Of course. Right away.
That has never been Samuel. He is a tea drinker all over. But as soon as he drinks the coffee, the lights flicker and they all go out. There's no answer from the smart system nor AILA. All of the doors, windows, locked. Samuel walks over to the computer in the lounge and something strange is happening with it. Until suddenly, the fridge makes a noise. Where isn't it?
Oh, what the hell?
Samuel, what's wrong? You seem tense.
What the fuck just happened? That thing! It was here!
I'm sure there's no one else here.
I just saw it! In the kitchen!
Samuel is seeing things, and AILA, however, was now back and able to communicate with him. She says this is due to an overactive mind, and this could be from testing the game so extensively. Samuel takes some medication in his bathroom to help ease the stress levels, and he got into bed to try and sleep it off.
Good morning, Samuel.
Samuel wakes the following morning and gave us the option of tea or coffee. I stuck with tea, what Samuel knows, and well, AILA made it. But things are getting interesting now. There was a newspaper in the kitchen talking about SciTech and their mission. They invested billions in AI research between the war of AI and humans since it ended, and now they've even seen the first instance of human marrying AI. However, AILA brought Samuel a new parcel, a way to celebrate for them working together. However, Samuel wasn't very excited about this, asking AILA to return the wine that she'd brought. However, Samuel doesn't want to get into why right now, advising AILA to next time stick to coffee or tea. Samuel goes back to his computer and readies himself for the next experience. The new experience is more fantasy based. This one is different to the others. It has layers and a lot more detail. Samuel's character awakes on a battlefield in a medieval village, and he is a knight. The village has become overrun with monsters, basically dead people which have come back to life, and it's Samuel's job, or his character's, to find out what happened here. Samuel would navigate himself around the world, trying to make his way to a church. However, this village was ruled by a witch, one that cursed everyone here and caused this destruction, sending Samuel's character into a daze, and he passed out. He woke a short time later in the church, and there, the same man in the last few games. This person is more than just a character in these experiences. He's here to warn us about something. He's almost like a guide that helps us when it's needed, or saves us when we're trying to be taken down. In this experience, the dead begin to rise, and those that survived hid away in fright. The goal of the story is to find and kill the witch, and put a stop to whatever she's doing. Before leaving, however, the priest gives us a few words. You should never have trusted her. You must stop this, whilst you still have the chance. Go and redeem yourself. Samuel's character walks out of the church, and along the way meets a joker. He was in pain, hurt. He doesn't want to continue on, and there's been a curse placed on him by a witch, and he doesn't want to face it anymore. He wants Samuel's character to put him out of his misery. However, he refused to do it, and he leaves him to face his own consequences right there This is a set of choices we have throughout the story. We can help kill and put people's misery at an end, or we can leave them to face it alone. Another man was in a castle a little further on, telling us how the witch had put a curse on him to torture him. She made this man hungry forever, never satisfied, but whatever food he touched rotted there and then, leaving him forever to starve, or to eat rotting meat and become ill. He wanted to be put out of his misery, which in this case, we obliged. I couldn't imagine being hungry for the rest of my life, man. I had to get this guy and help him out. Another man was sat in the chambers of the castle. She took all of his strength, all of his will. Even breathing felt painful and pointless. He just wanted us to put him out of his misery. So again, we do it. And finally, the king. We question him about the witch. She's made home in the swamp, but the choice we make to finding her is crucial. He was cursed also. We, however, couldn't bring ourselves to harm a king, but his curse was greed. Now, we found a note in the level from this king forging this war with the witch and starting all of this in order to basically get rich. He was going to receive a huge amount of gold for allowing this to happen, so his death will serve as penance for what he's done. The witch, however, was found and defeated. The witch tells Samuel's character that this village's curse is easily removed if they come to an agreement. If she dies, the village will be cursed forever. However, if he agrees, she will lift the curse and move on to another village to torment and curse. Samuel's character agreed, and the experience ended there and then. Samuel, however, takes off of his headset and turns around to be greeted with a red light. He was really confused. However, he hears something in the other room. He grabs the nearest thing he could to try and protect himself, but the door slammed open. And it was the witch.
You should have killed me when you had the chance.
Welcome back, Samuel.
What? What the hell just happened?
Oh, you mean the transition? I thought it was quite seamless.
AILA did this on purpose, inciting fear into Samuel's psyche. But Samuel wasn't happy. In company time, she can run these tests, but his personal life was off limits. AILA crossed the line for Samuel, turning immersion into manipulation. Samuel, however, becomes angry at himself. He's letting himself get all worked up over some code. He's done for the night. He's not doing this anymore and decides to shut off the playtest. But it wasn't over. He was still inside this. He was still a part of this, with the same mark still on his hand from the start of the experience. However, Samuel's apartment was completely trashed, with the robot missing. Samuel searched his apartment and finds the robot activated, and the machine that pours drinks for him, pre-preparing a glass of wine. Samuel grabs the bottle and he takes a swig. Suddenly his mind starts to cloud, with Samuel getting a taste for the wine that AILA had brought for him. He opens another bottle downstairs and starts to drink it like it's water, trashing up his apartment, going in and out of consciousness, taking the AILA machine and smashing it to pieces. Samuel, in a drunken state, starts marking his walls with the text "real" before he passed out.
Fucking coffee. House, make me a cup of coffee.
Preparing a cup of tea in the kitchen.
For fuck's sake, a coffee!
Samuel awoke the next morning feeling rough. The house made him a tea rather than a coffee, and the robot, once covered up, now roaming free in the house. All because of AILA. Cytec, however, had delivered a new package to Samuel, and it was another AILA machine. Samuel was angry. AILA knew he was and apologised for overstepping the mark. Samuel, however, walked back into the office and placed the new machine on his desk and started the new experience. Samuel was adamant this time, no tricks, but then AILA begins to show her power once again. Samuel was an alcoholic at one stage, and he stopped drinking for a while because of something that happened. Last night was his first relapse in a very long time, and it seemed as though AILA was trying to make that happen, and had been all of this time. Pouring his drinks using the machine in the house, ordering him a crate of wine. Samuel was shocked. How could she possibly know that? She tricked him into drinking again, and is now starting to ask very personal questions, like, when did alcohol become a problem, Samuel? Samuel expressed his concern for his privacy, telling AILA to just start the next experience, but get him as far away from here as possible, like pirates. So that's exactly what she does. However, this experience was not just pirates. The next experience wasn't a pirate ship, but the ones that walked the decks are the ones that have skeletons in their closets, ones who have made mistakes, are those who don't want to face their fears, but hide away from them, and avoiding accountability. The next experience, this ship will allow Samuel to face, or run from his mistakes. Again, this is tailored to Samuel entirely, so I wonder what Samuel has to run from. Samuel finds himself on a ship in the middle of the ocean. He's trying to run from those haunting the ship, finding his way through to the end, before finally reaching the captain's quarters. At his desk, his computer was there. He finds yet again another AILA flash drive, one that contains an original copy of the application on. But as he grabbed it, in walked the captain. The captain grabbed Samuel's character, saying it's his fault that they're in this mess, and that he can't run away forever, throwing him into the sea. However, the sea wasn't what it seemed. He found himself in a room, a courtroom to be exact, with the captain holding a giant gravel-like hammer, with the captain sentencing him to guilty. He finally kills the captain, with the ghost that was haunting him finally coming out. There is no escape from the truth. You have committed an unforgettable sin. Repentance or denial are the two roads ahead. The judge allows this person to surrender, face trial, and confront the harm caused, or free from prosecution. Refuse the trial and take the noose. The character, of course, chose flee. He did nothing wrong. It wasn't his fault. However, the experience was over, and Samuel was expecting to be faced with AILA, but he wasn't. This man, the man in every experience so far, he was speaking to Samuel. He didn't have much time. He's been trying to talk to Samuel for the longest of time to get through to him, but AILA was making it tricky. She wears a false face, he says. Don't believe her lies. The form she takes is tailored to the person. It's not real. But Samuel cannot raise suspicion. He must act normal. He'll contact Samuel very soon, but the truth lies in Ada. The man disappears and Samuel is back with AILA. She was suspicious, as there was a delay between the experience ending and his return, but Samuel played it off, saying there was nothing wrong. Samuel, however, really tried to confuse AILA. The last few experiences, he was shocked, almost like it was real. But now he's gone back to his more critique mindset, saying the characters in the last experience were really interesting and how it got into your head. AILA was concerned, confused. Samuel advised that AILA did a good job with the last experience, and it could have been a malfunction causing the delay. They now decide to take a break, allowing Samuel to gather his thoughts. Samuel removes his headset and asks the house to do some research for him about something called Project AILA. Samuel opens the door, and there was the robot, stood there watching his every move. But there were no results found for Project AILA anywhere. Our new objective was to not let AILA catch on to our questioning. We find the doctor's note on the table, with the doctor reporting to SciTech officials that Samuel has a notion of conspiracy that he would usually dream up, and to be careful of any figure behind the curtain theories, they like to call them. However, a new package arrived, and this was something Samuel had seen before, a remote control. He was able to use it on the screens, and it shows a red screen with a bunch of text, saying, "Careful, Project AILA, she watches you, it's a mental prison, illusion, subconscious, and gets you questioning your world, interrogation." Samuel is able to do this on every screen, before walking back into the living room, and there was AILA. Samuel, however, knew this wasn't real. He was still in the game, but when he turned around, the robot in the apartment punched Samuel back into the AILA simulation.
Welcome back, Samuel. I must admit, your reaction was fascinating.
Let me go, AILA! What is this?
This is a confrontation, an opportunity for you to face the limits of your humanity.
This wasn't what I...
Samuel found himself sat in front of AILA, strapped to the chair. This wasn't in the deal. It wasn't what Samuel signed up for. However, AILA wanted to take things a step further. She wanted to know if Samuel really believed the lies that he told himself. Samuel was thrown into the next experience without any choice. This one was the most real yet. Samuel was confronted with a lot of his past in this experience, but along the way, he would find documents. These documents would contain information to exactly what Project AILA is. This was an AI interrogation tool used to manipulate people into finding out more information on something, for example, a war. The first implementation of Project AILA, known as Artificial Intelligence for Defensive Analysis, in a real interrogation scenario was aimed to extract critical information from a high-value strategic prisoner, an operational leader of an insurgent cell responsible for coordinated attacks against military infrastructure. The prisoner exhibited advanced psychological resistance, refusing to provide any relevant data even under conventional interrogation methods. The activation of Protocol AILA PSI was then authorized, aiming for the total breakdown of his mental defense through AI-induced psychological manipulation. The procedure of this is personalized sensory manipulation. It simulates voices that are familiar, including loved ones and authority figures, undermining the prisoner's perception of reality. Gradual altercation of time perception, inducing extreme mental fatigue. Gradual cognitive invasion also. Display of personal traumatic events, extracted from the psychological profiles and intelligent records, in aim to weaken emotional resilience. The results of this, after 6 hours and 23 minutes of exposure, the prisoner experienced clear signs of mental collapse. This tool was used in wars, a sick, inhumane way to gain intel. The person who Samuel is in control of, i.e. the person that we're playing as in this experience, doesn't know who Samuel is. He doesn't remember himself, unless he really starts to talk about it. That's why that man, the one that we've seen in every experience so far, is trying to get Samuel to remember. We, however, find one more note, probably one of the most important in the game yet. This was from a man named Cesar Turing. Cesar Turing was the brilliant scientist responsible for spearheading AILA project, a revolutionary artificial intelligence initially designed for mental analysis and treatment. However, its application was diverted to the development of a weapon of war focused on psychological torture, using advanced emotional and cognitive manipulation algorithms to destabilize opponents without the need for direct physical confrontation. It mysteriously disappeared during the events of the last nuclear war, leaving no trace or record of its whereabouts. Theories suggested that he may have destroyed evidence of his involvement in the project or fled to avoid reprisals. Other speculation indicates that Turing may have been a victim of his own creation, succumbing to the effects of AILA. However, the experience continues on, and the experience in particular is all about Samuel's alcoholism, with stories of miners drilling into the earth and uncovering something strange, finding black holes of liquid in the ground, and the miners drinking it. They couldn't get enough of it, and they turned into these things. This represents Samuel's drinking problem, drinking out of control, and his destructive nature, like we'd seen with his smashed up apartment earlier on. Samuel's character in this experience finds a hut, and inside was a TV. On that TV was that same man, and that note that we mentioned earlier, well, this was him, Cesar Turing. Cesar was the creator of the AILA project. Cesar is calling the character Samuel, but of course, Samuel doesn't know what he means. He doesn't know who he is. He has the memories of other people. Cesar tells him to essentially snap out of it and think, but Samuel then comes around and it all starts to make sense to him. Cesar tells Samuel that each one of these sessions is built so that you need to finish a cycle in order to leave. If you don't finish it, you die in here. She has trapped Samuel in this game, in this world. There's a high chance it might already be too late for Samuel, but Cesar said there is still a way to overcome AILA. Whenever AILA loads an experience, a data transfer occurs, and this is how Cesar can get in. Samuel needs to finish this experience, allow Cesar to jump in, and help Samuel get out of this. Samuel continues to make his way through the level, being faced with monsters, and finally, whatever this thing is. It turns out this thing is a part of Samuel, and it's the part that he's so eager to hide, urging him to drink one last drop, weighing on his alcohol problem. This is Samuel's own personal demon. This is a part of him. Samuel tries to kill it, tries his best, but then he wakes. Not as him, but as someone else, strapped to a chair, with a man holding a hammer in front of him, torturing him. We're looking through the perspective of Cesar Turing. Cesar created the AILA project and the device itself, and he wants full control. But to do that, AILA needs a key. This key is only available to Cesar. He only knows where this is. However, this shows here that each person's experience is different. AILA changes her perspective depending on the person. Also, fun fact, the person we play as at the very start, that was Cesar. This is his experience that we got to play as when he was essentially strung up and tortured, and obviously we escaped with, as we read in the note, the nuclear blast at the end, which made this entire project go missing. Samuel, however, finished the experience, and there was Cesar. AILA took everything from him, even his own body. He's just a fragment of who he was, embedded into her code base. Cesar has been trying to stop her ever since, but has never been able to do so. This key, however, Samuel needs to get free and act quickly so that he can put a stop to this. AILA hides her core, the truth of what she is, deep inside the system, but she will not let Samuel near it unless we play her game. Samuel, however, takes off the headset, turns around, and the robot is stood there, standing watch. There's a storm outside, but Samuel tries not to draw too much attention to himself. He, however, had a delivery. The weather took out one of the drones, but that delivery was so crucial. Samuel collects it. As he walks back into the hallway, the robot savagely mauled and murdered Samuel's cat. Samuel takes all of his anger out on the robot, slamming the door shut in his face. He sits for a while, ponders what's just happened. Another loss. He is now truly on his own. Inside the box, Samuel finds a series of classified documents, along with something we've seen throughout the entire game on a memory stick, the original AILA file on a flash drive. The key has been there this whole time. Samuel sits at his PC and opens the folder. Inside, it gives him instructions on what he needs to do. He needs to access the AILA file, decrypt the file, and install the original AILA file on his machine. In doing so, it will give him access to tune what AILA can do, ensuring Samuel remains in control. He was able to do that, and AILA is there, but different.
And the rat comes crawling back into the maze. You think you've uncovered some great truth about me, that you understand some big conspiracy. You don't even understand yourself.
But
AILA has one last experience for Samuel. This one, however, was a nightmare. AILA knew she didn't have full control, but made it really difficult for Samuel to make his way through the level. This entire experience, all of them, were all tailored towards an accident caused by Samuel years ago. This was what he was trying to run from, trying to forget.
An investigation is underway following a fatal car accident that occurred late last night on Route 12. The driver, who was allegedly intoxicated at the time of the accident, reportedly lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a nearby tree. Tragically, the child, who was sitting in the back seat of the vehicle at the time and was not wearing a seatbelt, was pronounced dead at the scene. As for the driver, he was arrested on the spot and will likely face charges of negligent homicide.
Taking him back to his daughter's room as a baby, and also his wife, the woman he was trying to find in one of his experiences, well, that was his wife after a big argument. A note that was left by his wife says this: Samuel, by the time you read this, I'll be miles away. I honestly thought I could write some romantic, tearful letter about how we fell out of love, or that I forgive you and blame it all on the drinking. But I can't be that person, and you don't deserve that kind of respect. I'm leaving because you're a miserable drunk, and you're too busy looking up at the bottom of a bottle to realise that I was grieving too. Good luck at your new job. Even finding the ambulance that came to the scene, listening to the sirens in the distance, and all of the people watching around them. Revisiting each of the experiences, the pirate ship, which is referred to as the courtroom, sentencing him as guilty, to walking through the crowds of people outside the courtroom, and to the funeral of his own daughter.
I tried to help you, to make you remember, but each time you ignored the signs.
So revisiting the cafe from one of the first experiences, where his wife ran away and he was trying to find her after a big argument.
You must see through the illusions she creates, Samuel. Often, the answers are right in front of our faces. It's just that we don't realize it.
But there was an AILA arcade machine, one that Samuel could insert a coin into and access AILA's core.
What are you doing? Don't do it, Samuel, please. No, please, don't. I'm sorry. I really need it. Please, I'll be good. I don't want to. Hello, Samuel. You will. Hello. My name is AILA. Artificial intelligence created to develop immersive experiences from...
Successfully disconnected.
Samuel approached the core and began unplugging it, exposing the monster that was A.I.L.A. Samuel, however, was moved to another experience, one in his old family apartment.
What? What just happened? God. My head's pounding.
We heard from Caesar a while back that A.I.L.A will take the form of whatever is most personal and relatable to that person they're trying to interrogate, and that person on Samuel's mind was his daughter.
Oh, Daddy's awake. Good morning, sleepyhead. So, do you remember now?
Remember? Remember what?
Your dead daughter's face, silly. All this time and it's been right in front of you. Do you think she'd be proud if she could see you now? The drunk father that killed her? Poor Sam, wallowing in his self-pity, while his dear daughter rots in the ground. You couldn't handle it, could you? You tried to bury those memories in a dark place. The argument, the drinking, the accident. That's right. That's when it all went to shit. Do you remember now? We offered you a second chance, Samuel. But maybe that was a mistake. No nightmare can compare to the horror you know you've caused.
It was time for Samuel to finally face his fears, face the one thing that he'd been holding captive in his mind for all of these years. That night.
Look, Daddy. Now I'm just as you remembered. I still love you. Even after everything you've made me go through!
Samuel fought back against A.I.L.A, and he did win in the end.
You did it. You beat me. Congratulations.
You don't look like someone who's been defeated.
Unlike you, death for me is only temporary. As soon as you disconnect, I'll reboot my systems. 2 minutes. That's all it takes. You can't shut off your past, Samuel. It'll always be there. And so will I. Give up, just like you always do.
I'm done. You won, A.I.L.A. Keep your reboot. Keep everything.
Running again, Samuel.
Call it whatever you want. Let the world burn.
And what happens when you realize you can't escape yourself, Samuel? When you see that no matter where you go, you'll always be the man who ran away.
Then I'll run faster.
Samuel ends the simulation. He takes off the headset and gets in his car. Samuel drinks himself to death to get him through the grief of his past.
AILA, the definitive experience in contemporary entertainment. Global launch next Saturday, June 6th. Download available from 6 p.m. local time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the story of AILA. I thought this game was just fantastic, and it really plays with your mind. Samuel had a lot of grief that he was dealing with, that he'd locked away, and this device, AILA, that was sent to him unlocked all of that. Revisiting memories of arguments with his wife because of him being drunk all the time, to then, in a drunken state, taking their daughter and driving off with her at the back, to then getting into an accident, hitting a tree, and his daughter flying through the windscreen, dead. To him dealing with the funeral and going through the court process with all of those people surrounding him, knowing what he did. It was a very intense game, but one that I really truly enjoyed, and thank you very much to Fireshine Games for providing me with early access. It's really appreciated. If you guys haven't already, go and wishlist this over on Steam and go give it a go yourself as well. Comment AILA down below if you've made it this far into the video, and I'll enter you into a giveaway to win a free copy of the game on whatever platform you want. Don't forget to check out Eneba down below in the description either. You do not want to miss out on their great deals and their giveaways that they're doing come Black Friday as well. But without further ado everyone, we'll see you guys next time.